big news of today that provincial government has decided to dissolve Peel region. So we have already talked to Mayor Patrick Brown, Mayor of Brampton. Now we are going to talk to Mayor Bonnie Crombie, Mayor of City of Mississauga. So City of Mississauga City Council was already demanding for long time that they want to be separated from Peel region. There were many reasons for that, and I remember former Mayor Hazel McCallion was also very strong advocate for this. But now finally provincial government has agreed to do that, but there are lots of questions in everybody's mind. So let's talk to Mayor Bonnie Crombie. Mayor Crombie, welcome to Parvasi Radio. Good morning.
So, Sat Sri Akal, happy days, Rajinder ji. It's a great day, a historic day for Mississauga.
Okay, I remember former Mayor Hazel McCallion was always advocating and always demanding this, but somehow you and your other colleagues have been able to convince the provincial government to do that. So what is your first reaction on this?
Well, it's a great day. I'm so happy to be fulfilling Hazel's legacy. As you know, I campaigned on this myself. It never made any sense. I know that it created a lot of animosity between former Premier Bill Davis and Hazel McCallion because he created the region of Peel. When Mississauga was entering our growth phase, they knew we would grow out and develop first, and he wanted us to pay for the growth and the development of Brampton. And it's always been a very inequitable arrangement. We have paid for their infrastructure, for their growth, by funding 70% of the costs at the region, while they contribute 25%, and the final 5% came from Caledon, for 50 years now. I would say in the last 10 years, that has changed a little bit with Brampton's growth, but we're still paying over 60% of the costs, while they pay only 35% of the costs, and Caledon 5%. And don't forget, Mississauga only gets 50% of the vote there, half the vote, and 60 to 70% of the funding. So it's been unfair. And Rajinder, in addition, I transfer every year $84 million to Brampton to pay for regional roads, planning, and for Peel policing. And you know what? In four of the past 5 years, Mayor Brown has frozen property taxes. So imagine, here I am raising taxes responsibly and doing the right thing, and he freezes them because he has the overpayment coming from Mississauga.
Okay, Mayor Brown was on our show a little while ago, and I asked him the same question. He said that you cannot walk away like this. There are billions of dollars infrastructure created by Brampton. Brampton has contributed a lot, and we will be demanding for that.
He's been paying 25 cents on the dollar, Rajinder. The numbers don't add up. The numbers will speak to themselves. The legislation will be introduced, and they will do audits, and the audits will speak for themselves. I challenge them to do an audit on his books and on mine and to show anything different than what I'm describing to you. We are strong fiscal managers here. We have nothing to hide. We have had a AAA credit rating for 20 years. We funded the growth of the region. We know that's why the region was created. So, I mean, if this is the argument he wants to put forward, that's fine, but it's not true. It's not true, and the numbers will speak for themselves once the audits are done and the transition board comes in to dissolve the region and to redistribute the assets.
Okay, if Mississauga and Brampton don't come to an agreement, what are the possibilities? How this will be resolved then? Will it go to court, or the provincial government will have the final take on this?
Yes, it will be out of our hands. We won't come to an agreement because I doubt we would. So there will be auditors, facilitators, a transition board put in place to make those decisions for the divorce and any alimony payments, if you want to put it in those terms.
Okay.
But I'm just asking for fairness and equity because it hasn't been fair or equitable for the city of Mississauga for 50 years. We have overpaid, overcontributed, and paid for the growth of Brampton. I'm saying enough. Let's cut the umbilical cord. Brampton should want to stand on their own 2 feet and control their own destiny, not have interference from Mississauga, not having us pay their bills. There are small cities right across Ontario that are single-tier and managed just fine. London, Kingston, Windsor, Brockville, Belleville, even Dryden, Ontario. They pay their own bills. They stand on their own 2 feet. Why can't Brampton? It's time. It's beyond time. And now the Premier's doing the right thing. And, you know, he had looked at regional governance before, but when he said he would extend strong mayor powers to the other cities, I said, well, how will that work in two-tier government? You know, we go to the region. Who's going to have the veto? The mayor has the veto. Does the chair have the veto? They didn't have an answer. They came back and said, you know what? It doesn't make any sense. We need to have independent cities. And also, it'll help us with our objective of building homes faster. You know, there's so much duplication, red tape, duplication, and cost at the region. You know, if you make an application, then we have to go debate it at the region appeal. Then every department there has to sign off on it. We already have the sign-offs in Mississauga. Why do I have to get their approval over there, too? It doesn't make any sense. Let's have one level of government, get it done once, and get it out the door. I argued it's faster, more nimble, cuts red tape and costs, and it'll help us get permits out faster so we can build more housing faster.
Okay, as you said, it's like a divorce. It won't be easy for both of you, Mississauga and Brampton, or say Caledon, to get separated like this. But I'm sure Premier must have some roadmap for that. What about the Peel Police, our police force then?
Yeah, and the utilities. Let me talk about that. So with Peel Regional Police and paramedics, I think they should stay intact. Peel Regional Police headquarters in Mississauga. Brampton is home to the headquarters of the paramedics. Brand new building, beautiful building. Now, we just need to change the funding model. Right now, the funding model is assessment-based. And because Mississauga has more residents and we have more businesses, we have more revenue, we overpay. We overcontribute. We pay for the policing and the policing needs in Brampton. And this has to stop. We have to move to a user pay model. So if in Brampton there are more calls for servicing, then they have to pay more. That's how this should work, just like with the OPP. Now, with water and wastewater and waste, this is different. They can be put into a utility, much like Electra, your electricity distributor, run by an outside or independent board. And ultimately, the user pays, the resident pays, based on how much you use. This makes sense. We do this with electricity. We can do it with water and wastewater and waste as well. So there are lots of very easy solutions. And I look forward to working with the province and the auditors and the transition board that we put in place to make all these decisions, because we already have studies that have already analyzed all this. We commissioned the Ernst & Young report to look at 3 separate scenarios. What does the future of Peel look like with the status quo, with a region? What does it look like if it's an amalgamated city, not to mention losing our identities, etc.? What does it look like in dissolution? And the results showed in the Ernst Young study that Mississauga saves $1 billion over 1 decade if we were a freestanding independent city.
I'm sure you must have shared all these studies with the provincial government?
Yes, of course. The one that is not reliable is the Deloitte study, because that was commissioned by the Region of Peel to justify the existence of the Region of Peel. So the premises used there were, how do you keep it intact? We don't want to keep it intact. We asked Ernst Young to look at 3 scenarios, which is best. And very much for Mississauga, the best scenario is dissolution, and we save $1 billion over a decade.
Okay, do you think that this will be implemented before the next municipal elections?
From what I understand, the goal is to ensure that everything is in place a year before the next election, so that this is not something we're going to the ballot box to fight. The next provincial election will be ahead of the next municipal election, and nobody wants to have this fight. We want it all to be operating as 3 separate entities, 2 separate cities, and the town of Caledon before any provincial or municipal election.
Okay, thank you so much, Bonnie, for talking to us. I believe we should wait for provincial government's motion also. I believe things will be more clearer by the end of the day and in coming days.
Yes, legislation will be introduced at 1 o'clock, and we look forward to reading all the details then.
Anyway, thank you so much. I know you and all of your colleagues at the council must be happy. You were demanding this for a long time, and let's see how we are going to implement this. I know it won't be easy, but end of the day, everybody should be happy.
Yes, exactly true. Thank you very much.
Thank
we want
you.
a fair
You too.
and equitable process, and for everybody to be happy.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye. AC Mayor Bonnie Crombie